Hello and welcome to episode 584 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the glorious LeagueFreak. You can also find on Twitter at LeagueFreak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew. I hope you're doing well, and I hope all of our listeners are doing well as well.
That's far too jolly.
I know, right? I like our listeners to know that I want them to have lots of fun while we have lots of fun doing the podcast.
That's good. You know what? I was going to start on a bit of a downer.
All right.
Yeah. Not a sad downer.
Okay.
A ranty downer.
Oh, just do it.
Yeah. So, did you hear the Broncos this week released their heritage jumper for the year?
I didn't see that, no.
Heritage.
What?
If I was to tell you...
Is it the heritage jersey from like 2005 or 6 or something like that?
2006.
Because I saw it and I was like, that looks almost exactly the same as the jersey they've worn for the last 10 years.
Well, I would say I had an existential crisis.
Okay.
That's gone a bit far.
Okay.
But it reminded me a bit of the time when I remember going to, I think it might have been JB Hi-Fi, just looking around.
Yeah.
And I saw in the retro music section, there was like albums by Nirvana. And I was like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. That's not retro.
Yeah, things like that are weird, hey?
And
so
then,
like
then I said that the heritage jumper is 2006. I went, heritage, fuck off.
It's like if Marty McFly got in a DeLorean today, he would go back to 1996. It's fucked up.
It's not good. It's not good. So it almost made me feel old.
That happens sometimes. I remember the first time I was weirded out by something like that. It was like the Houston Rockets were they were celebrating their first title win, and it was like, I can't remember what it was, but it was like 20 years ago, and I was like, it wasn't 20 years ago. It was like, oh my god, it was 20 years ago. It's very strange.
I reckon too, the first time you ever sort of really start to realise your age, if you're a sports follower, and this, I remember this in rugby league, and that was when players that I started following and watching were retiring at an age younger than I was.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
So, I mean, he's not that old. He's going to look and go, fuck, he was born 3 years after me.
You know, I tell you another weird one is like when you will be talking about something about footy online, and you realise that you're talking to somebody on Twitter who actually wasn't alive at all when you like, and it come up with like, with the NRL era thing, and there were people that would be like, well, they weren't even full-time professionals before the NRL. And it's like, yes, they were. And they're like, no, they weren't. And it's like, I watched it. I was there. What are you talking about? It's like they didn't even, they all had day jobs in 1997. It's like, no, they didn't. You fucking idiot. But then you realise they don't know because they didn't see it, you know.
Yeah. And then they call you a boomer.
Yeah, and it's like, that's not even what a boomer is, you fucking moron.
I know.
You know, boomer's just a word that they brought back out so that everyone could think that it was fucking boomers that were destroying the economy rather than the government. Don't get me going, Andrew.
Well, shall we move forward?
Yeah, let's move forward. Let's not talk about politics again for the rest of the podcast.
Okay. Anthony Albanese was on the ground when Alex Johnson scored his 213th try. I'm going to say, I'm not going to talk about Anthony Albanese. Last year when Johnson was getting close to the mark and the venues in the NRL were coming out everywhere saying, don't go on the field, don't go on the field, don't go on the field. And they're saying this the whole time, and everyone's just sort of going, whatever. And you didn't know what would happen. And that was the good thing, is that we didn't know what would happen when he scored the try. Was everyone just going to sit there and stay in their seats? And I think what happened was the most glorious thing that I wasn't fully expecting, and that was the ground just got filled with people celebrating. And I thought that was fucking amazing.
I think I tweeted 3 times how beautiful it was. And like to score, because to me, like I was a winger when I used to play footy. And so that mark for me is like the holy grail mark in rugby league. Like you can have your games played and stuff. It's the try scoring records, the gold standard for me. And so for him to score that try, which was the coolest try ever to break the record with, like just so cool.
Yeah,
runaway try.
It wasn't one of those shitty ones where he just,
dives
falls over the line or something.
Yeah, it was like a cool try, and he scores it, and everyone's celebrating, and I was up clapping my hands and stuff, and then people started coming on, and everyone ran on, and I thought, oh, this is so beautiful. And then, like, once they celebrated, everyone walked off the field too. They got off really quickly. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was weird to see people saying, oh, we've never seen this in rugby league. It's like, we have many, many times before. It's just that, you just have to not have a memory of a goldfish.
Yeah.
That's all.
And admittedly, it has been a while, but
it's been a while, but
it has happened before.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty amazing. I will just say this about it, because Albanese did go on the ground. I want to make this point, and this is not talking about Albanese so much, but because a lot of people are saying, oh, he should get fined and banned. And here's the thing, okay, and I don't think too many people are recognising, and that is, it doesn't matter who the Prime Minister is, okay? It could have been any Prime Minister walked out there. No one is going to fine and ban the Prime Minister from anything, right?
See, if I was running this country...
I know you would. That's different. That's different. But I'm just talking about right now, okay?
My thoughts...
Unfortunately, you're not.
Yeah. Fortunately, I am not, yeah. Because from my castle...
No one is going to fine and ban the Prime Minister of this country. It doesn't matter what political leading they have. And so his presence on the field, inadvertently, because I don't think he did this intentionally, but his presence on the field meant that he wasn't going to get fined or banned, and therefore nobody else on the ground at the same time could either, because that would be hypocritical. And so him just being there on the ground basically just meant all those fines and bans got wiped.
That's a good point. And you know what, Andrew? I didn't think of it that way. Okay?
Yeah. And trust me, I'm not giving him praise for that. I don't think that he had any idea that was the case.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't like any politicians from any size at all. Like, I don't like any of them. And
Mate, I've heard you talking about how much you love Barnaby Joyce, but that's more about his rosy cheeks.
It's just a natural rosy cheeks.
You just want to pinch him.
I don't like any politicians or any political parties. Like, I just don't like any of them. So I've got no sides, Yeah. So when I saw him on the field, I was like, especially because I felt like it was after the fact, I was like, But who cares? It was about Alex Johnson. And the cool thing about Alex Johnson is that, there are certain things in rugby league that people can point at and be like, oh, yeah, but what about this? What about that? There is nothing you can point at with his record and say, oh, but. Like, he did it at South, at one club, and not like a club that's been super successful his whole time there either. And he's the only one that got there, and he's going to break the record by quite a margin if he keeps playing, even for 2 or 3 more years. And there's just no way around that he did it. It's not like he had one season where he scored 40 points on some ridiculous scored 40 tries on some ridiculous team. Like, he's just done it the right way, and that's what I loved about it.
Absolutely, no, it's a genuine thing. Also saw too that he had a statue made. A statue looks pretty cool. But there were suggestions that South's boss Blake Solly was going to speak to the NRL about changing the Ken Irvine medal for the top try scorer for the year to the Irvine Johnson medal.
No.
And I think that is stupid, because the Ken Irvine medal is about the person who scores the most tries in a year.
Yeah.
If the name of that medal was to change, I think it should change to somebody who was a first in that field, not someone who is the most recent to do it, because that means you'll be changing it every time it changes hands. And I think that's just dumb, because it kills the legacy of it.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I'm inclined to just keep it as a Ken Irvine medal. But if we had to change it, there's only 2 names, okay? And the first one is the man who was the leading try scorer after the first weekend of games, and that was Jono Stunts. He scored 4 tries in the first round.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
The other one is Horry Miller, who scored 15 tries in 1908, and he was the all-time top try scorer for the first 2 seasons of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I sometimes think it's weird when they name everything after a former player. Like the NBA recently did it, where they made all of these new awards and then named them after different people. And I just think it's weird sometimes when you do that, because you really, I don't know, it's a weird marker to put down at times. I think that Ken Irvine medal for the top try scorer, though, is really appropriate, considering he held the record for so long. And I've got no problems with it, and I'm sure Alex Johnson has no problems with it either. But I thought it was a bit of a weird thing to suggest by the South CEO. But
Johnson has said that he's not interested in changing the name of it. He's happy with what's happened already, and I think Irvine is the perfect person to have on there, because you think the record that he broke was Harold Horder's mark. Just a brief bit of history. Harold Horder entered the top 10 all-time try scorers in 1914.
Mm-hmm.
He got to the top in 1923 and stayed at the top until 1969 when Ken Irvine replaced him. And he stayed in the top 10 all-time try scorers until 2019.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
For Irvine to top that guy, that's an achievement in its own.
Yeah.
Right. And it also shows you how much of an achievement it is for Alex Johnson to actually beat that mark as well. But, I think Irvine does genuinely deserve to have that honour there.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for it to stay in Irvine's name. I don't think it needs to change.
No. One thing I found interesting is when Alex did break the record, and there was a lot of people in the media saying he's only the third person to be the top try scorer of all time. And I remember, I was like, the math on that doesn't math, No. And then you put out the list through Rugby League Project on Twitter of the actual top try scorers, and what was there, like six players were the top try scorer of all time at the end of a season.
Yeah.
I think it was 6 or 7, was it?
It was 6. So you had Horry Miller for the first 2 seasons, Tommy Anderson in 1910, Arthur McCabe in 1911, Dan Frawley and Arthur McCabe were tied in 1912. Then it was Frawley for the next 3 years, Frank Birch for a few years, Horder, Irvine, and now Johnson.
Yeah, and the weird thing for me was that, we have that information. But, why would people in the media say, oh, there's only been 3 top try scorers of all time? It's that's just wrong. Why are you wrong? Because the information is there. And so I thought it was really cool that you'd put that information out there. And I retweeted it and said, this is important to know, because so many people in the corporate media were just lying and I don't understand why. There's no reason to lie in such a beautiful moment for the game about something so silly.
Yeah, look, when it comes to stats, this is going to a different sort of rant here. When it comes to stats in the mainstream media, I do tend to find sometimes that the media will want to put out a stat to make it look like they know what they're talking about. Especially when it's an historical stat. Like those ones, they want to put it out there and go, yeah, we have this deep historical knowledge of the game and everything, because we just gave you a number and a stat. And it never feels right. Every time I see something like that, I go, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to check that out.
Yeah.
And there's been enough times for me to go, yeah, okay, they've researched this as far as they want to, and then either got bored or it's starting to not suit my point that I want to make, so I'll just stop researching that part of it now, and that's what they do.
Yeah, it'd be different if they said, look, in my lifetime, there's only been, in our lifetimes, there's only been 2 top try scorers of all time. Ken Irvine, well, for you, it's obviously Harold Horder. You go back to, born in 1932, you've seen a few.
Mate, but I was there when Horder scored his first try.
Yeah. But but they don't say that. They just say, oh, there's only been 3 ever. And yeah, for me, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And it's funny that you were doing the same thing. And it's like when you see people saying like, oh, since World War II, there's only been, and it's like, why are you not counting before World War II? Because we have, everything is super well documented in rugby league. We've talked about this before. Like super, super well documented. Before rugby league even existed, it was really well documented as a sport. And so when people do that and they just randomly state that, oh, in the whole history, this is this, and then you find out they're completely wrong, I find it very weird.
Well, there is this, I don't know why, there is this weird passion for having neglect for what happened prior to World War II.
Mm.
And I think it comes down to the fact that, you know, there was less teams, less rounds. So maybe they think, oh, the comp was just watered down. It wasn't that great. And that's bullshit.
Yeah. Like if we had the same number of games that they had back then, the competition would be amazing.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Like it wasn't like it's not like they played like 6 games a season. Like they played a good season amount.
Well, even if you go back to like 1940, right? During World War II, they had 14 rounds. Everyone played each other twice.
Mm.
But what they also had back then, which we don't have now, is an intense representative season.
Yeah.
They played so much more rep footy. It was crazy how much rep footy was played back then. It was all different levels. You had Sydney playing games against Newcastle and Metropolis playing games against, you know, visiting teams, and New South Wales wouldn't just play Queensland. They'd play against England and New Zealand and all this sort of stuff. There's just so much rep footy that was played. It was ridiculous. And they played, you know, minor cups too, like there was a preseason cup, there was the City Cup, these sort of things. They played a lot of footy.
Mm.
So it's kind of silly to just have so much disregard for it. And the thing that they disregard it the most is with the Immortals.
Yeah.
Because they've made it pretty clear now they're not going to include any more Immortals prior to World War II. And there's more that they could be adding from that period.
Yeah.
And it's disgraceful that they won't.
I think the Immortals thing has been so watered down now, though. Like, I mean, when you had the post-war Immortals that they first come out with, and I think that they really should have maybe added a couple of players from the pre-World War II, and sort of left it at that for quite some time. There's been so many people added to it now that, you know, it's not like these days you hear people really bring it up that much like they used to, because I don't think it's as special as it used to be, you know?
Well, and I do agree, because I think the initial people they put in there, and some of the ones since, not all of them, but the initial 4, they weren't just, you know, all-time greats of the game. They changed the way the game was played, or they changed the way the position played the game.
Yeah.
And this is probably going to irritate a few people. Andrew Johns didn't play the way halfbacks played the game. He was just exceptionally good at it.
Mm.
Right. No one comes along and replicates Andrew Johns. And Andrew Johns didn't have rules changed to try and impact his game, or, you know, any of crazy stuff like that.
Mm.
He was just fucking amazing at what he did. I'm not taking anything away from Andrew Johns, but there's a difference between what Andrew Johns did and how he impacted the game, and what Arthur Beetson did and how he impacted the game, and what Clive Churchill did and how he impacted the game.
Johnny Raper, he's another one, you know.
And they had such a massive impact on the fabric of how games were played, how teams looked at how they should be playing, how the game evolved.
Mm.
And I don't think Andrew Johns had the same impact on the game's evolution as those guys did. And that's why I think those guys deserve to be Immortals, much like Frank Burge, Duncan Thompson, who isn't in there.
Mm-hmm.
These people changed the way the game is played. That's what I think makes them an Immortal.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into this.
I think Frank Burge as well, by the way. If you look at, you know, his record, it's incredible that he was doing that as a forward back then, where forwards were mostly a lot of grunt work. And this guy was like the best try scorer. It's incredible.
He was so impressive, even from his debut season, that he was being put forward to go on the Kangaroo Tour at the end of the year. And the only reason he didn't go is because they didn't think it would be a good idea to take a teenager on a tour over to England.
Which is very good idea. That's a good point.
You think about that though. The only reason he didn't go wasn't because he wasn't good enough. Because he was too young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a teenager playing in the forwards. Fuck, come on.
Just crazy, and like just hit the ground running, and just in an era where, as I said, like forwards weren't supposed to score tries, and he was the best try scorer. It must have been so crazy to watch him play.
He scored 20 tries in a season a few times when there was only 14 games in the year.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's just
amazing.
It's fucking nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So, I look at it quite differently. I think the bar needs to be set a bit higher. But once they added in Andrew Johns, I went, okay, you know what? The bar's been lowered a little bit, so maybe we could recognise the all-time elites. But I fear now that by cutting off the pre-World War II people, that we are going to run the risk of watering down the immortals in the future. Yeah. Because recency bias will be so much stronger.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for me.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, Andrew Johns is the best rugby league player I've seen play. And it's, if somebody had to say, like, who's the second best, it's probably Wally Lewis. And they're just two of the players that, they're the only two players that I can really point. Darren Lockyer was very similar, though, where it was like some dudes just, doesn't matter what's going on out there, they just decide that this game is going to be one that they're going to win. Doesn't matter if their team's better or worse. Doesn't matter if the odds are against them or whatever. Darren Lockyer, Wally Lewis, and Andrew Johns are three players that it's like, that is just like a force of nature watching them.
I think those three two are a great example of like what it takes to be elite, because those guys looked like they were playing footy in the Matrix. Like everything else was just fucking slowed down around them, and they just had all the time to make whatever decision they wanted.
Yeah, like Darren Lockyer is a fantastic example, especially like towards the end of his career, where he looked like he was playing slow. Yeah, and yet he was somehow faster than everybody, and it was because he was faster between the years, and that is, when you get to that level, it's like that's pure mastery of what you're doing. And when you see that out of an elite player, it's really, really special. That's what I loved watching about Darren Lockyer. As he got older, it was like, this guy is just a master of this game. And it doesn't matter. It's getting quicker around him. The players getting bigger and stuff. And yet, when it comes down to it, we all are playing in his game, and he decides what happens. Yeah. I love that. I love it when you see someone like that. And Wally Lewis was like that in State of Origin. It was like a force of nature. You couldn't stop him. Threw everything at him. Everyone knew Wally Lewis was going to be the one to stop. Couldn't stop him. And Andrew Johns was like that too. Everyone knew, stop Andrew Johns. Good luck doing that.
Yeah,
and you just couldn't.
Yeah, stop Andrew Johns. Next question is how.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things you mentioned about how Andrew Johns didn't, like, there weren't rule changes and stuff, and he wasn't doing something that other players hadn't done before. I've heard him, his play style lined up with Tommy Raudonikis being a big, robust halfback who like, I mean, Tommy Raudonikis was a tough bastard as a halfback. Yes. And Andrew Johns played like a tough bastard as a halfback too. That's probably why his body broke down when it did. And it just reminded me of that. Like, obviously Andrew Johns was a much more skillful player than Tommy was, but he kind of had a similar sort of, like taking on the line, taking on all it, and defensively fantastic, like absolutely amazing defensively. Just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I mean, there was this iconic thing that Tommy Raudonikis always used to do, which you never saw other halfbacks do. And that was, when he got the ball, he would take like one or two steps towards the defensive line and make them come to him. So he was drawing them in a time when halfbacks were tiny guys, and they would avoid a lot of that contact, because it usually meant they were going to get fucking belted.
Destroyed, yeah. Especially in that era, you were going to get smashed.
And he invited it. And then it just created so many opportunities where he would draw an extra defender out of the line who would otherwise be defending an outside back or a forward running wide. He'd draw that person into him, and then he'd pass the ball. It seems like it's second nature to everyone now. If you go through the history books, and you'll see that like he wouldn't be the first one to do it, but he was the first one to do it on a very regular basis, like week in, week out. And it's just little things like that. I'd like to see more depth and analysis gone into who becomes an immortal and why.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. We're just going to get people putting forward, and they're going to say, oh, it's going to have to be Thurston, Slater, Inglis, Cameron Smith are going to be the ones that will get put forward next.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they shouldn't be considered, but they'll just put the names out there and just go, well, you all saw him play, so let's just figure out which one it's going to be.
Yeah. Look, Nathan Cleary will probably be one that will be put up by the end of his career, especially if the Panthers win more premierships. And I think because of that, Isaiah will also have his name thrown in there as well, because he's, a co-captain that will have won all these premierships. And Isaiah is a fantastic player. I'm not saying that, like, we're talking about, like, degrees of greatness here. We're talking about, like, the difference between, like, playing on Madden and it's like a 98 player versus a 99 player. We're not bagging anyone, but, I agree with you. Like, to be an immortal, you got to do something ridiculous. You got to be talked about like 60, 70 years after you retired. Like Clive Churchill is one of those. It's like you don't have to even question, is he an immortal? He just is. You just got to read the things he did, the way that players talked about him.
Well, I mean, he changed the way fullbacks played the game. They used to just catch the ball and then run it back, and that was it.
Yeah.
And he literally decided it could be a second 5/8.
And that's the thing about all of the immortals, like the original immortals. You could drop them in today's game exactly as is, and they would be friggin' unbelievable.
Absolutely. Look, the great thing is that with the immortals is modern greats get compared to them. Like, how many times do we hear about Billy Slater being compared to Churchill?
Yeah.
That's how you know how great a past player was.
Yeah.
And I've always said before, I know people will often scoff at me about it, but they're always, to me, from what I've seen of Arthur Beetson playing, there's similarities between the way Andrew Fafita at his peak played that matched Beetson.
And this is the thing, you're talking about Andrew Fafita at his absolute peak, which wasn't super long.
No,
right?
It might have been 2-3 seasons max.
Maybe, yeah. But like at maximum 3 seasons. Arthur Beetson did that his entire career.
That's right.
It
gives you an insight into...
And it's like, it kind of looked like this. You're not saying he was better, or it's like, if you want to know what it looked like, it kind of looked like this, but imagine this, but better.
Yeah, Beetson did this thing where he became a ball player in the forwards, and not just in the forwards. Like, we had ball players playing at lock, like Johnny Raper and Ron Coote, but he was playing it as a prop. That was different. The most prominent ball playing prop that we had, and there were others that came along, but the most prominent one that came along, and he was not on Beetson's level, was Steve Roach, and that was because he was able to pass on both sides and had a great offload. But that's only part of the skill set that Beetson had.
Yeah.
And Fafita showed a bit more of that. He had the step. He was able to run a bit wider. He ran good angles. And he had a good passing game both sides, as well as the offload. Plus, he had the size. Like, he wasn't just rotundish, kind of looking like solidly built stuff like Blocker was. He was tall as well, so he had a big reach on him. He had a good stride on him. These are things that Beetson had over his opponents as well, and that's why I compare the two. But yeah, Fafita wasn't on Beetson's level. I'm just talking more about stylistically. I get you. A bit of that way. Yeah,
I totally get you. It's like saying, like, it'd be like saying, when Brett Mullins was at his very best, he was like, this player was like Brett Mullins, and Brett Mullins' best was only about a season and a half. Like, it wasn't very long, but it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that. think it's going to be really difficult to explain to somebody, 20 or 30 years from now, Jason Taumalolo, and being like, you don't understand. Like he if it was just pure go forward, if he was just hitting it up like rucking it out, he was so big and strong that he would get another probably 50% on what a normal hit up was. But this guy was gigantic and had footwork that you would sometimes just be watching, and he'd put on footwork as a giant man, and you just throw your hands in the air and go like, what the hell was that? And that's how he was so good at what he did, because he was just this giant dude that was so strong and had this ridiculous footwork. Another one is like Isaiah Yeo. Like, it's going to be difficult to say, like, this guy, for whatever reason, it was so difficult to drag down. And he wasn't hugely bigger than everyone. He was kind of, most forwards are heavier than he is, Yeah, he's kind of he's not slightly built, but he's more athletically built.
He's rangy.
Yeah, range is a good word.
He's a lot like Luke Lewis.
Yeah. And it's like, for whatever reason, this guy takes on the line and 3 guys will be hanging off him and he still stands in the tackle, and you can't explain it.
Well, I mean, Paul Gallen might be able to.
Paul Gallen is different. Well, we talk about Paul Gallen in 40 years from now. It's going to be really easy to sum that up. How did he do those things? Well,
how is he still doing those things? He's 70.
If you look over on Grandpa's bookshelf, there's a chemistry book over there, right? Get that and I'll show you. Allegedly. That's what someone else would say. I think he's just an elite natural athlete.
Yeah. He's all about performance.
Yeah. Enhancing that performance through his natural ability.
Yes, he's natural chemistry.
Yeah.
We're all built up with chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. We're all just, atoms and different chemicals. Yeah.
Emails.
Yeah, we've got an email here, a long email from Andy Marjolais.
See, I thought I needed to do a hard segue there.
Yeah, we really need to.
Andy Marjolais.
Yes, he sent us an email. To podcast.
Actually, I've got to ask: did he ever tell us how to pronounce his surname, or did he just leave it to us to do it?
No, he said he likes to hear how badly we say it, which I think is pretty funny.
Andy Marjolais.
So he sent us it's podcast@leaguefreak.com if you want to send us an email. He says, I'm a bit behind on the podcast, so I only listened to the Zach Lomax pump and dump episode. The thing that I always laugh at with the truly international game quote about rugby these days is the average salary of an NRL player versus Super Rugby player is probably that great that even players close to the bottom of the top 30 can probably afford an international holiday without having to train, play, get stuck in a hotel for a few weeks in the off-season. That's a really good point. It's like, I think the lowest salary in the NRL is $130,000. I think it is these days.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's like if you want to go overseas, just pay for a holiday.
Yeah, didn't Lomax sign for the Western whatever they are for $350K?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Marquee signing.
Yeah.
Did
you see how big the crowds were to watch it though?
No.
No one did. No. He says, play NRL C Penrith, play Rugby C Paris. LOL, yeah, and that's one of the things I've always said. I'd rather be an NRL player and go to Paris for the off-season holiday than part of a touring rugby squad. You'll be able to see a lot more and enjoy your time heaps more. Lomax probably will not even make the Wallabies, so he'll just end up having burnt close to $1 million over a few years by breaking all the contracts. Yeah, I mean, like he's literally lost millions of dollars.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a clause in the contracts. And I don't know this for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of these rugby league players that go over to Union have a little clause in their contracts to say that they will be selected in an initial squad for the Wallabies.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll play, but they'll get selected in a squad.
Yeah. Well, look, in recent years, you can literally end the NRL season and they will select you straight out of the NRL season. They did that with that player that played reserve grade for the Titans last year, Carter Gorden, I think his name was. They did it with him. They did it with Suali. They picked him straight out of the NRL.
Do you reckon this is going to put me on a different tangent here. Do you reckon if Luke Brooks signed up with Rugby Union, he'd play for the Wallabies?
I honestly don't. I don't watch Rugby Union at all. My guess would be that he'd go very close. Like
I don't think you'd have to. I think it's more just a comment of how desperate are they? If they signed Luke Brooks, do you reckon they'd put him in a Wallabies jumper?
Yeah.
How low down the ladder do we have to go before you go? Yeah, probably not. Would John Bateman get to play for the Lions?
He might do, hey?
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. I mean, Sam Burgess was one. He basically walked straight in. I remember Yeston Harris. He switched to Rugby Union, and I wrote a thing about it. I think he played half an hour of Rugby Union and went straight to the Welsh Rugby Union team. Because I used to keep a list of how long it had taken different rugby league players to switch and then play international rugby union. And I stopped doing it when they were just literally ending their NRL or rugby league season and getting selected straight out. It was like the end of making that list. So
yeah, Sam Burgess was a bad one because he didn't work.
Well, look, he played international rugby union, right? My understanding is he played in the centres. I think he did a lot more in international rugby union than he did in international rugby league. But no, I'm serious. If you look at it, I think he achieved much more. But I think the thing that they had was that the England team didn't do well in a World Cup, and so they needed a scapegoat, and he was the scapegoat. And so they sort of started talking down what he'd done as an international rugby union player. But yeah, I think his international rugby union career was a lot more successful than he was in international rugby league. He didn't really achieve anything in international rugby league.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the email.
Sorry, Andy.
It's all right. He's cool. In other news, how bad have McLaren been in the F1 this year? They haven't been bad.
They just haven't been racing.
Yeah. Not sure who's had the worst start to the season, them or my Broncos. I'd say McLaren, definitely.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, Verstappen is struggling with that car too.
Yeah, he is. It's not good. I'm hopeful that both will turn things around, although I suspect the Broncos will fall to 0-3 before riding the ship. And on to the Broncos. Does the media have anything better to do than bagging Maguire?
Is it all of the media, or is it just Gorden Tallis?
I think it's the News Limited. We make our own stories about ourselves, and Gorden Tallis for whatever reason.
Right. Okay. So people need to remember when they see something that's said or written by Gorden Tallis, you just need to say to yourself, "This bloke is a loudmouth idiot." And then just when you remind yourself of that, just turn the page or change the channel. Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I thought he was a fantastic player, and I find him to be absolutely insufferable as an opinionist, like columnist, commentator, whatever else. He's insufferable.
Yeah, I just think that he. I wouldn't go to Gorden Tallis for an opinion on anything.
No.
Which is fine. I'm sure Gorden Tallis wouldn't come to me for an opinion either.
Yeah.
But dumb is the word that comes to mind. He's a dumb. A dumb. Okay, so Bag and Maguire, because they missed the Haas story. They really did miss the Haas story, and then they tried to pretend they knew all about it. That was beautiful. And I can't accept Payne's reasons. They can't accept Payne's reasons for the move. It's a month since that story, and they're still butthurt, move on. Then there's Gordy. Loved him as a player. Even enjoyed his company at a charity night at my old school a couple of years ago. But his continual bagging of the Broncos is very tiring and predictable. I think they get him to do it. I don't think they say, hey, Gorden, bag the Broncos and we'll sell it. No. I think they say, hey, Gorden, what do you think of the Broncos? And he's like, and then they print it. And then they say, then it's like, oh, one of our employees says this about Gorden Tallis. And, then it's that self-fulfilling thing that you and me have taken the piss out of,
Did it not start, his anti-Bronco stuff, did it not start with some sort of falling out between him and Wayne Bennett when Bennett was coaching the Broncos?
Yeah, I think there was something about him and Bennett falling out.
I mean, if that's the case, and you're still doing it now when Bennett's not there, that's pathetic.
Yeah. Well, it's just been one thing after another for him that he's sort of moved on to the next thing. And it's like someone at the Broncos should really publicly come out and say, Gordon, fuck off, idiot. No one cares. No one here cares. He only played for the club for a little while, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Or give him a job at the club. Like, shut him up. Get him to lick the stamps on the envelopes for all the membership stuff.
Yeah, Brett Kenny him and put him out in a fucking lawnmower. That was harsh. I love Brett Kenny. I'm sorry, Brett Kenny. You're a legend.
Absolute legend.
Is very yes, we know they sacked his mate Kenny, but geez, move on. Maybe look at the club you're part owner of, which is the Titans, and worry about them first. Dead set, turning into a renter quote like the great West Tigers player, backdoor Benny Elias, and then he says, "Sorry, Fergo, chip shot. I know he played for Balmain and not the joint venture." Otherwise, cheers.
Actually, I was going to say, I'm Benny.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing how you never hear from him when the Tigers are winning games?
It is very strange. He only pipes up when there's either something going really bad or he's about to sell you something you should not buy. Andy says, otherwise, man,
this is what I was going to go, well, I reckon Benny Elias is the sort of guy that would be involved in selling timeshares. Allegedly,
yes. We're doing good, and this might be the last episode. Otherwise, cheers you, Carmichael Hunts. Thanks for the podcast. Regards, Andy. Thank you for the email, Andy.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
Yeah, we got there. So, yeah.
Just the one?
Yeah, just the one. The one.
Come on, people. Send us emails. We love the emails.
Yeah, Glenn, you got to send us some more emails, man. We got to get some updated emails to read out.
Where is he?
Yeah, I know, right? We should talk about some of the news in the footy. There's some stuff that's coming out this week where it's been about a week and a half. It's been going on. So, Cooper Bye, who's Marcus Bye's son, he was on the market and he decided to recommit to the Gold Coast Titans, which is good news for the Titans. And there's been news being put out there that his dad was unhappy about it and he should have gone and played for the Melbourne Storm and stuff. And I just found it really disappointing because, that's not the sort of thing that a family member should be putting out there, I don't think, in the media about an NRL player. And I always think with NRL players, they've got enough media scrutiny as it is. And if you're related to them or you're a friend of them or something and you're sort of creating noise around them that can be used for more media bullshit around them, I just think it's unfair to do that. And that was one of the circumstances that I thought that it was really unfair of Marcus to do that with his son. Because I think that it was good news that Cooper Bye did sign for the Gold Coast Titans rather than going somewhere else.
Absolutely. And he's going to be a great player for him. I mean, he's already proven to be very good. I don't like what Marcus Bye did at all. He came out and said something like, you know what, in my culture, the father makes the decisions, and I said to him he should have done this, and he decided to go his own way, and he's offended or something like that. And so, you know what? You can feel like that. You can do all of that. Don't do it in the media.
Nah, talk to your son.
Especially when you were a first grade player and you know how the media works.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to help you to get him to come back to your side?
Mm.
Like, what a stupid idea to do that via the media.
Yeah, I just thought it was. It sucks. It can't be good for the young bloke, and like I think he's still only a teenager, and I just thought it wasn't the right way to go about things.
Well, I mean, he's running the risk of alienating his own son, which is just that's just foolish.
Not right, yeah. RTS is looking to possibly play for a Sydney-based club next year or the year after. I don't know who he would play for. I think that he'd be good. He'd be a good finishing touch for a team that maybe, like, say he went to the Bulldogs as a winger, like something like that. It'd be good for him. But I just hope that he wouldn't go to just like, say, the Dragons or something where he's just going to be playing in a not very good team and being used the wrong way. I think that there's a place for him now in his career, and it probably is as a winger that you can get some go forward out of at certain times. But it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up if he really does want to come back to Sydney.
I don't think he's much great anymore.
Yeah, he's definitely not a great player anymore.
Yeah, and I don't think he's... I don't know. I'd probably prefer to see him playing in the centres more than on the wing, as much as his career is more on the wing. I don't think he's as competitive with all of the amazing wingers we have nowadays. I don't think he competes with them as much or as well as he'd like to. So I'd like to see him in a different role, either at centre, maybe at 5'8" as a ball runner. I think he's probably got enough ball skills to be able to make that work. But I don't think a team that's successful or on the improve is going to go for him. I think it'll be a struggling team that'll pick him up. It'll be something like Manly or the Dragons or maybe South. They've got an inclination to keep buying, experienced players. I'll put it that way. It's going to be someone like that, which is not going to help him a great deal with his career. I mean, yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know what he's thinking he's going to achieve there. I don't think he's going to get too many offers in Sydney.
Yeah, I think it'd have to be a very specific circumstance.
Unless he thinks like Uncle Nick's going to sign him back again, which I wouldn't put that beyond him either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that. So yeah, that was one thing that came out in the last 24 hours or so.
Speaking, you mentioned the Bulldogs there. Bronson Cherry. Wow.
Yeah, look, anytime I hear something about a Bulldogs player that apparently is throwing a hissy fit about something the club has done, and then the club says that player wants to leave, but then there's a bunch of denials, and then the Bulldogs get rid of them anyway, I just think you've been gussed.
Well, it's funny because Gus said, I haven't heard anything about any of this. I don't know about him wanting to leave.
Yeah.
And he was watering it all down, putting cold water all over that. That's all bullshit. And then he said, look, I'm going to have, was it a breakfast or a brunch with him at a cafe the next day? And he organised it all. And then Cherry didn't turn up.
Why would you? Why would you?
Oh
I had quite a bit to say about this because Cameron Ciraldo is doing a really good job with that, Bulldogs team. And he needs to be the only voice at that club. He doesn't need anybody else there. And all of the drama that keeps being forced upon this team, and a lot of it has been internal drama. And there are certain patterns that you've got to recognise in life, and there's just patterns there. And I think that the Bulldogs just need to have one voice running that team, and it needs to be Cameron Ciraldo.
Maybe Gus would do well at the Dragons.
Yeah, I think he would.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all right. Gus, just go with the Dragons.
Just go to the Dragons, yeah. He was going to at one point, and then the Bulldogs offered him a role there. And, they're just, look, there comes a point where you don't need these people doing an extra job on top of what the first grade coach is doing. And I think we've seen that in the past. I mean, the Panthers worked that out. And I think the Bulldogs need to do that now.
Oh, 100%. Speaking of the Dragons, their coach, Shane Flanagan, last week was his 50th game as coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's won 19 games. And my question to you is, how come we're talking so much about Anthony Seibold's neck is on the line and Todd Payten's neck's on the line, but no one's saying shit about Flanagan, who's now into his third season? He's got the team he wants.
It's got to be pretty close. I know that they really struggle to get anybody of any quality to go to the Dragons, and I think there's probably a good reason for that. But how many more years does he need for it to be his team? I guess is the question, because he's had 3 so far.
Well, the thing I'm finding with him too is he is possibly the most one-trick pony coach I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So what he's trying to get the Dragons to do is the one thing he had the Sharks doing play style-wise for, how long was he there for? 8 years, 10 years, some shit like that. And it was just we just do bash and barge through the middle and then kick to the corners and hope it works.
And that was a style that worked.
To an extent, it worked. It took a while.
With a certain sort of player or certain sort of players under a certain sort of regime. And that regime does not exist anymore. And so it's very difficult to replicate.
Well, I mean, chemistry sets and regime aside.
Yeah.
The style itself won't work because the roster he has built are not designed to play that style of football.
Yeah, and look, if you think of that style of football, right, and then you line that style of football up against say the Panthers, you're going to lose it every single time because the Panthers just do all of that stuff and better and add so many different things to it. You're not going to win with that style while there's the current Panthers running around on the NRL field. And I think that the problem that they've got there at the Dragons is that there's so many other teams that, the Sharks are another team. Ironically, this Dragons team is not going to be able to outdo the Sharks at that style because the Sharks just do that style better than them. And there's so many other teams that do it. I mean, the Broncos were able to overcome that sort of style last year through the finals. There's so many teams that are just so much better than how they're doing it. But I think that the big problem with the Dragons is the fact that they play with one half and then the coach's son is out there just running around like a Make-A-Wish kid. And he shouldn't be in first grade. He's probably not even a reserve grade quality player. And, that is not going to change. He's not going to get rid of his son. He's not going to move his son on. And so you just handicap it. You're just handicapping the whole team. And that won't change until the coach leaves. So what's the end game for all this shit?
Listening to you then, I just realised something.
Okay.
Who are the 2 halfbacks who he has stuck by the most in his coaching career?
Chad Townsend and his son.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Chad Townsend would be a great player, right? A great halfback. And he was okay. He was okay. I'm not going to bag him or anything. He's first grade halfback for a long time for a reason. Be a really good player behind the right sort of team, under the right sort of regime.
Yes. What other news have we got to get through?
Look, the Broncos' slow start to the season has been not great. And I agree with Andy what he said. They play the Storm this week, and probably going to be on 3. I think the Storm will get them, but this disrupted start to their season, I think they'll be fine eventually. But it's just been a rotten start to them. It's not been good.
It really has. I can't figure out what it is that they're trying to do and what they're doing that's horribly wrong or bad. It just watching them, it just looks like they've not played together too much before. It feels like there's no communication and everything just feels out of sync and clunky and they're trying to force it and it's getting worse. And I think instead of just trying to do what worked last year when they're running that run into the grand final, they need to just cut it back and just go, you know what, let's just start on doing the basics, get through our sets, do the basic stuff, make the meters up the middle, try and make a bit of meters out wide in the end of the sets, and then work on our defence and try and work off the back of our defence again, because that's at the core of what they did last year. It wasn't the fact that they were just brilliant in attack. They were brilliant in attack off the back of their defence.
Yeah.
And that's what's gone missing, is their defence is not where it should be.
No. In fact, at times it's looked shocking. It's reminded me actually a lot of the Panthers' defence at the start of last year where, you come off the back of a premiership win and, the defence is pretty good. And then all of a sudden it's like, what's going on? Like, teams are going through them.
Yeah. I think it's a part of it is you just go, you know what? When your defence is good and it's on song and it's absolutely just untouchable, it feels easy. And I think teams can often get lulled into this sense of we don't have to try that hard in defence because we're good at it. And so they just drop 5-10%.
And that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
I do think they're good enough to get back, but man, they need to see that loss last week as the immense kick in the arse that they need because they should have won that game by plenty, especially after what they, after round one. Yeah,
and like round one, I can forgive them for that. I was not going to hold that to them, but yeah, that game against the Eels, they looked like they were going to flog the Eels, and then it just all stopped. It was a very strange game. It was back and forth, very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. It just very sloppy footy by them, and it really did. It reminded me a lot of the Panthers last year, and we saw with the Panthers last year, like you can't allow yourself to fall too far back from the front runners because it takes so much effort to get back in the race again that you get to the end of the year and it's like, how much more have you got left? And I'm not going to say that that's why the Panthers lost in the finals last year, because I think they kind of got their feet back under them for like just before the finals. But man, like you're talking about a full-time premiership winner that did that. To do it is so difficult. It takes so much, and you don't want to have to do that.
No, you don't want to have to do that at all. Now. We may as well go through the rest of the games from last week.
Yeah.
The next game is the Warriors absolutely belted Canberra.
I wasn't surprised by that result. Hey.
Well, the only thing that surprised me is the fact that the Warriors were without a ton of players. And so I would have thought that was a good opportunity for Canberra to come out and get a win against a team that they were probably going to struggle with if they were full strength. But here's your chance to get a win, to prove that you do deserve to be considered as one of the top 8 sides. Not saying that they are a top 8 side, because I don't think they are. But for them to say that to themselves and to their fans, hey, look, last year's minor premiership wasn't a fluke. We can compete with the big boys, and we've just shown it. We've beaten the Warriors on their home soil. And they got belted 40-6 against a team that didn't have either of their halves for 2 games. And they lost their fullback midway through, late in the match. And they're without Mitch Barnett as well, their top forward.
Yeah. Look, I just thought that Canberra, with their game the week before against Manly, who Manly looks not good, and Manly almost beat them. And it was a real weird game, that one. Went back and forth again, and, they come out on top in Golden Point. And I really did. I expected the Warriors to put it to them. And to the Warriors' credit, in the past, the Warriors would have been disappointing in a game like that. In this game, they weren't. They were very, very good and just a class above the Raiders. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the Raiders cope with that sort of result, because they're a very mentally fragile team, and they feel a lot about themselves and where they feel as though they stand in the premiership. And if that gets shattered for them, I could see it turning really bad really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know, man. I just thought, surely, I mean, when you come up against a team that's without both of their halves, surely you can't get flogged by 34 points, especially if you're the minor premier from the year before.
The thing is, though, the Raiders have very young halves now, and that's I think that people have underestimated that. You know, if you go, any team that has young halves is going to have issues, and their forwards are okay, you know, and then their backs are very, rocks and diamonds. And when that all goes right, we saw what happens when it all goes right last year. You know, of course, they had Fogarty as the halfback, so that helped them in terms of your halves being just a young halves pair, and it wasn't a young halves pair when you look at it like that. But now it is a young halves pair, and I just think that this is the other side of that, you know, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can turn this around. They play the Bulldogs this week. The Bulldogs coming off a very long bye, and I expect the Bulldogs to beat them. But we'll see. The Raiders really need to bounce back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulldogs haven't actually been convincing either. Yeah, a 1 point win over the Dragons is not a great start.
No, it's weird. Those games in Vegas are so strange, though. Like
they are.
They're almost like trial match sort of. I think you've almost got to write them off in terms of how you rate teams.
Yes. So also on Friday, we had the Roosters beat South 26-18.
Yeah, it was a pretty good game at the end of the day. I was a bit surprised that the Roosters actually won it. I thought the Souths were going to win that one, but good win by the Roosters.
Souths were looking good in the middle of the game, and then they just fell asleep.
Yeah, that second half by them, some people will blame the break in the match. I don't think that had much to do with it. I just think that they didn't execute. They dropped a lot of ball. That's what it comes down to.
The Tigers belted the Cowboys 44-16. I'm not going to gloat because I am...
Just gloat.
Nah, because this Cowboys side is fucking dreadful.
Yeah. People were kind of surprised that I was so onto Todd Payton early on. And I think it's taken 2 weeks, and now people are like, I was being generous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they lose this week, because they've got the Titans this week, if they lose this week, fuck me.
Wow, yeah.
Tigers were great. It's funny because the other thing that came out of this game is that everyone's going, wow, Jerome Luai looks really great at 5'8".
I know, because people are adorable, aren't they? He's a pretty good player. Have you heard?
Oh, fucking hell. Melbourne beat the Dragons 46-20. The only thing for me out of this game is I can't believe the Storm let in 20 points against the Dragons.
Yeah, that's
worrying for the Storm.
Even in that Storm's first game against the Eels, 20 minutes into that match, I was like, the Storm are here to be beaten. And, of course, from that fucking moment on, the Storm just rampaged. I just think that there's a vulnerability about the Storm. Harry Grant's playing very well, but I think that their forwards are just okay. I think their outside backs are just okay. They've got very good halves, but I just think that they're a bit vulnerable. And that's okay. Like, I'm talking about vulnerable on the Storm scale, which means
They might finish fourth.
Yeah, like they might have one of those bad years where they lose in the preliminary finals.
Yeah.
Shocking year, terrible. Have to do an inquiry. But I just think that they look a little bit vulnerable.
Penrith beat Cronulla 26-6. Now, I don't actually think Cronulla were that bad in this game. And look, early on, they were doing the right things against Penrith. They were taking the game to them, and they were bashing them through the middle, which is what you have to do. You got to put Penrith on the back foot, but they didn't stick to it. And I made a tweet this week, and I said these first two games have shown to me that I think this is the best Penrith has looked in 2 years.
I agree, and I don't think that the Sharks worried the Panthers for one single minute of that game. I think everything the Sharks threw at the Panthers, they handled. And it's really weird because the Sharks' situation against Penrith is strange because the Sharks have their style of playing that's really effective. But against this Panthers team, it's like they get nothing. And nothing at all from this Panthers team when they play them. And it's got to be really rough on their thought process in the premiership season that, they're pretty good against most other teams. And then there's this one team out there that can just crush them. And I don't think Penrith, broke a sweat against the Sharks last week. And it was really weird to see. It was like, I didn't know whether I was seeing like a styles make fights thing between these two teams where it's just for whatever reason the Sharks style is just not good against the Panthers, or are we watching this, or was this one of those games that we've talked about where it's like, is the rest of the premiership going, oh fuck, they're back?
I think it's a bit of both. I will say I generally think the Sharks were more competitive in this game than the Broncos were against Penrith the week before.
Yeah, definitely.
The Sharks threw a lot more cohesive attack against the Penrith. They scored one try, so that's not saying that they were unbelievably threatening.
Panthers have 3 points per game scored against them every game this year so far. Not good enough.
It's not good enough. But yeah, the Panthers' defense it's got back to being patient. And the one thing that I saw too, and I meant to pick up on this, I don't know if I tweeted about it properly or not, but the first try that Penrith scored, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Dylan Edwards was drifting right. And he's just holding the ball up and he's waiting, like he's approaching the Sharks defensive line and they're defending their own try line. And he's waiting for one player in the Sharks line to just stop moving for half a beat. And Kyle Lero came up and then he came up one step too far. And you can see in his head he's gone, oh fuck, I've gone too far.
Yeah.
And he stopped and he tried to sort of, sometimes you see a player, when they see they've gone too far, they'll try and put out a really wide stance to try and look like they're covering the gap. And Edwards ran at it, drew the winger in and put his winger over. And I went, that shows you that they've stopped just being a team that just throws the ball around and shit just sticks. They're now playing with experience and guile and patience. And the fact they're playing with patience now, that's the fucking thing that's scary. Their attack will just wait and wait and wait. And then they'll just put points on whenever they need to. And it's so clinical what they're doing now. I think if any other team had played Penrith on that game, they wouldn't have fared as well as what the Sharks did. I think Penrith would have put more points on them.
Yeah, I think that outside of maybe the Storm,
even then, I mean, the Storm's defense has been not great. So I still think Penrith would have put more points on the Storm.
I think the interesting thing about the Panthers this year is that Blaise Talangi looks big and strong. He like in defense and attack. And he's just going to get bigger and stronger, which is kind of crazy.
I like how he takes the line on, and he's got a little bit of late footwork if he needs it.
And he'll go and he will use it to go through you if he needs to, which is scary, especially when I mean, he's probably a natural fullback. So he's got the toe if he needs to. And then, he outside of him, he's got like a young monster who's just getting bigger and strong. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
And then you've got Milky outside of him, who's like, for whatever reason, this dude out on a Panthers wing just gets the job done. It's really crazy. I think the other big thing this year is that To'o looks like healthy again.
Yes.
He's not at his best yet, but he looks healthy again. And he was a big loss towards the end of last year in terms of just he was carrying himself the whole season, basically. And yeah, there's that between those different things. And as you say, the playmakers for the Panthers are now just Jedi mind tricking everyone. And if they continue to do that, because it's really weird, they're still a pretty young team to be able to do shit like that. It could get weird with this Panthers team. And the big thing will be, though, and I think they've got a little bit of this, they need the depth of forwards, not only through the bench, but into their reserve grade team. And I think they've got a little bit of that this year. And, I wouldn't be super shocked if we get like 8 weeks into the season and we're like, oh man, no one's stopping this Panthers team.
On current form, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, Sunday, Newcastle beat Manly 36-16. And
it was a good game. Did you watch it?
No, I was at work. But
it was a good game.
The interesting thing about this is that obviously the Knights have lost both Kalen Ponga and
Dylan Brown.
And Dylan Brown for well over a month.
Yeah, Ponga pulled a hammy, and you could see he wasn't happy with it straight away. And I think Dylan Brown's done an MCL, was it?
Yeah, it's his knee.
Yeah, so just unfortunate. They were flying. The good thing was that after they both left the field, they didn't really miss a beat. They didn't look like in the past, like they might have fallen apart. They didn't. They just kept going. So they looked really good against Manly. Manly don't look good.
Yeah, I don't know who looks worse at the moment, Manly or the Cowboys.
I think the Cowboys, but Manly.
They've both got pretty decent packs. I wouldn't say great packs, but they've both got decent packs, and I expect both their packs to be doing more for the team than what they are.
Yeah, I think that the Cowboys probably have more talent.
Yes,
but Manly just don't look great, and I don't think anyone's surprised by that.
No, man, they look garbage. Speaking of garbage,
I didn't watch this last game.
The Dolphins beat the Titans 18-14, and fuck me, this was a bad game.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I was watching a Formula One.
I sat through this one, and Titans got out to a 14-0 lead just through the fact that they were being less shit in everything they did. Dolphins were sloppy, dropping the ball a lot. Titans were dropping the ball a fair bit themselves. Dolphins didn't actually score any of their points until the last 20-odd minutes of the match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a bad result for the Dolphins and a not so bad one for the Titans because they probably would have gone into that thing and they were going to get 50 put on them.
I think on the tipping, I know that we both put like massive scorelines for the Dolphins, Dolphins in this one. So our margins on the tipping don't look great now, but I wonder if Christian Wolf is going to start to be questioned this year. I said that, they collapsed at the end of last year to miss the finals. It was a really bad collapse, and that's not good. They have to have a much better year this year. They kind of have to make the finals this year. And when I see, and I didn't watch the game, keep that in mind, but when I see a result like that, I just wonder where they sit in terms of being a finals team this year.
Their attack was so clunky and bad. Yeah. And it looked like Katoa was just not getting any ball at all. The Titans' defense was, I'm going to say, their defense was the best I've seen it look in a few years. Like, they were putting in a lot for the whole game, saving tries. They were doing plenty out there.
That's good news.
They busted their backsides. The other interesting thing about this is played at Lang Park and only 16,000 watched.
I mean, I tell you what, there'd be plenty of teams that would be happy with 16,000.
Well,
right?
that was 1,300 less than what they got at Leichhardt Oval. Just to put it into perspective.
They do have actual toilets at Lang Park, though. I know that.
Sorry. Well, look, it was only 4,500 more than what they got at the Sharks Stadium the week before. See, now it looks bad.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate. Like, everyone knows the Titans are going to have a bad year. They're doing a super rebuild from the ground up. And I think that everyone's skeptical of the Dolphins. And I think that that's rightfully so. So I get that they got that crowd there. But having said that, like, we sort of look at 16,000 in Brisbane and be like, oh, that's not good. But then when you like readjust it for where both them teams are at and everything, it's like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, before we get into previewing the next round.
Yes.
There was just a few things. So there was an article that came out during the week that said that the NRL has been linked with a 5-year, £250 million offer to invest in Super League.
Keep in mind, the article is coming from sections of the media that have been saying this over and over again.
Yes.
And nothing's ever happened out of any of it. But let's just say that it's true, just because let's have fun with it.
Why not?
£250 million is a fucking ridiculous amount of money for something that doesn't make any money, right? My guess is that if it was that much money, it's buying every single team.
It has to be.
Like that just has to be, right?
Because that dwarfs their TV rights deal by a lot.
Yeah, by a long, long way. So say the NRL is going to buy every single team. Not everything's created equally. So, like, you know, some teams are going to be worth more, some teams are going to be worth less. Fair enough. But do you buy, say you buy the Leeds Rhinos, that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're pretty well established. They're in a city. They've got their own ground. It's a pretty good ground considering, and that makes sense. But then you buy Huddersfield, and they're playing out of a pretty good ground, but no one goes to the games. It's just no one goes there. What do you do with that? Do you dissolve the team? Are you buying it to put it in a different location? Are you buying it to put it down into the championship? And there's so many teams like that. It's the same question you would have with the Lee Leopards. Like, are you purchasing that team to actually have Lee in your new competition, or are you just buying them out?
So I think what the NRL are doing, instead of buying the clubs, they'd say, right, we're going to give £50 million to the Super League every year for 5 years. And that money is going to be split evenly between all of the teams competing in Super League. We don't care who you are. And that way we won't own you. You still control your club. You get this cash. And they all go, oh, great, we're going to be saved. Hang on. You're being saved for 5 years. Right? So the NRL will then say, right, in 5 years, this is what we're going to do. And the NRL's idea will be about trying to make this thing profitable and worthwhile, so they can probably end up at some stage trying to get their money back out of the game itself. That's how investments work. That's why the NRL, I think, when PVL was asked about this a few weeks ago, is that, you know, if he was going to get involved in it, then he wants to have full control of it so that he can do all of that and try and make money so that he gets the money back that the NRL puts into it. And I think that's how he would work it instead of buying the clubs, because as we know, there's no money to be made in owning a rugby league club, especially not one in England.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's sensible for him to, I mean, it's not sensible to be putting money into the Super League, but it'd be less sensible to put money into Super League clubs. So I think if he was to do that, that's how he'd do it. He'd just give it to the Super League and say, right, this gets split evenly between the teams, and then we're going to run everything from here on in, and we'll tell you how it gets done.
Here's my thing though, right? If you gave me £250 million and said start a completely new competition in England, rugby league competition in England, that would just annihilate Super League.
Well,
to the point, it would. I'd say I don't need that much.
So the other bit of news that came out of England this week was that there was talk that maybe the Challenge Cup is going on too long because people are losing interest in it, or the crowds are starting to dwindle for the final, something like that. And I think there's probably still these days more interest in the Challenge Cup than there is in the Premiership competitions. So I don't think the Challenge Cup needs to be changed. I think the regular season needs to be shortened to accommodate it because there's too many games going on in England at the moment. And that means that you run the risk of, the more games you have, the more games that don't mean anything. Take, for example, right, the NBA.
Yeah.
If Houston loses their next game, it gives a fuck. There's 80-odd games in the season.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And, and this is the problem they've got in England is they're playing all these games all the time. It doesn't matter if you lose one.
Yeah.
What did the NFL do when they had a problem? They went, let's cut the season down and make every game fucking mean something and look at it. It's just gone nuts. It's so wealthy now. It's rude health financially. I think Super League needs to go, let's just have 12 teams in Super League. Everyone can play each other twice. That's 22 rounds. That cuts a bunch of rounds out already. That's a month of football cut out of it. When the Super League and Championship teams get to their phase of entering in the Challenge Cup, instead of having them play those games, just have one round in the Super League season and one round in the Championship season where those games double up as Challenge Cup games. And bam, you've knocked another week out. We've just knocked out 5 weeks, 6 weeks of football and haven't impacted anything. If anything, we've probably made it better because now we've made games in the middle of the year mean something because they're now part of the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, that's interesting doing it that way. Kind of like the NBA Cup where their regular season games count as cup matches. It'd have to be like, because they, and I don't know how real it is, but they say that there's a draw for the Challenge Cup games. I think sometimes there's a draw and sometimes they just, sort it out. So you would be completely just changing the way that the draw is accepted to be done in the past. And, you do get a point where you're going to have lower grade teams that will get to the point where they do play the Super League clubs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's look, there's so many issues with English Rugby League that they've got to sort out that I just think it's easier to start from scratch. And I don't know. I know that the English do not want Australians telling them what to do in regards to rugby league. And I think that they're happy with what they've got and they're happy to just run it into the ground. I've said that many times before.
Yes.
And I'm happy for them to do that. But I think that if the NRL was going to spend all that money, they'd be better off just starting their own competition. And I think you could have like you could have a 3-month long competition. So you're not playing for that long. You could probably have it even a lot over the off season, our off season. I just think that there are much better ways to do it and much more profitable ways to do it and much better ways in terms of having a longer term legacy of doing it than having to deal with these Super League clubs and Super League officials and all of this bullshit that comes along with all that. Just going to a Super League club and saying, you know what, you need to have a bunch of lower grades. They would hate that. They'd say, well, how are we going to afford that? And it's like, well, we've been affording it for 100 years. There's things that they will not, they'll think are stupid and say, well, that'll never work when we've literally been doing it for more than a century. And I'm fine with that. They can keep doing whatever they're fucking doing, but go along, be merry and stuff. But I just think for what the NRL would want from a rugby league competition that was based in Great Britain, at the very least, you would not want all of the teams in little towns in Northern England. You'd want at least 2 or 3 teams, I would guess, in London. You'd want teams all over Europe, all over Great Britain, not just in pockets of places. And you don't get that if you spend £250 million on Super League. You do not get that. So why do it?
Yeah. No,
I'd much rather spend that money in fucking France.
Yeah,
where at least you get a it's a real national competition.
I'd love to see French rugby league going absolute fucking bananas. We've said all that before.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing is I think the French would. There are certain things they wouldn't like they don't like training, they don't like dieting, but I think that if we went in with our like the expertise from this part of the world, and I include the Kiwis and the Pacific Island and all of that in that, the expertise from this part of the world. If we went over to France and said like, okay, we're doing a bunch of lower grades, this is how we're changing junior development, this is how we're doing, I think that they'd embrace it with open arms.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Now, there was one other news thing, and that was, this ties into the last episode we had, briefly.
Mm-hmm.
The Australian Financial Review reported this week that Paramount Global, who are the owner of the 10 network, apparently had a meeting with Peter V'landys when V'landys was over in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe it's to do with talking about putting in a bid for the NRL rights.
Yeah.
And I suggested last week that, in the last episode, that I wouldn't be surprised if this starts to happen, because it's going to get to the point where the rights for the NRL and the AFL are going to go beyond what the local networks, 7, 9, 10, can cover.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to start meaning that bigger organisations are going to have to get involved somehow. I mean, they're doing it already, because both codes are already trying to split it up between, 2 or 3 networks, including Foxtel, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's already got to that point. And they're both getting bigger. So it's gonna start drawing in these streaming services to start having these games on. Do you think Paramount will put in a bid for the NRL?
There are certain ones that I've thought, maybe Paramount. I wouldn't be shocked, because I think that they tried to get people going to Paramount Plus on the back of soccer in Australia, and I don't think it's worked out for them. And their Paramount as a company is currently in the acquisition mode. They got the UFC, they've just purchased Warner Brothers. They're really aggressively going after it at the moment, and I wouldn't be shocked if they saw getting rugby league as a way to establish their service in Australia finally and properly, in a similar way that the pay TV providers did in the mid-90s. The thing is that Fox Sports cannot afford to lose the rights. They just cannot under any circumstances, because DAZN just purchased them, and if the NRL leaves, then it's worth half as much as what the purchase price was last year, at the end of last year. It's a disaster for them. So I think DAZN will eventually get it, but all of these, Channel 7 apparently is getting together a pretty good bid team. Channel 9 has already done their, we're actually really poor fucking media, outputs that they do ahead of every single TV negotiation. I think this is definitely the strongest position that rugby league's been in terms of the upcoming broadcasting agreements that are about to put in place. My guess is what we'll see is, I think we'll see Fox Sports keep the NRL rights, but it'll be for a ridiculous amount of money, like absurd. I think that 9 and probably 7 will split the rest in terms of one will get the regular season and the other will get State of Origin and probably international rights wrapped in with that. And I just don't know how Paramount gets into that. Paramount would have to do a Godfather offer. And I don't know that they could Godfather offer beyond what the others have to Godfather offer themselves. For Paramount, it would be a really nice bonus. For DAZN, who owns Fox Sports, it's life or death.
Yeah. So Vlandis says that he thinks that the NRL rights are going to be worth more than $4 billion over 5 years, which would make it bigger than the AFL's current 6-year, $4.5 billion deal. Look at that, right? You're looking at $9 billion tipped into two sports in Australia.
Yeah.
Like the TV networks here, they can't cover that as well as everything else they've got to broadcast and do.
The problem they have, though, is that, like, live events and live sport in particular are really the only things that cut through in terms of free-to-air television. And, like, no one's buying pay TV to watch the fucking Kardashians, you know? It's all just sport, you know? And so if you want to be in the game, you've got to be in the fucking game, and the game's expensive.
Mm.
So, it is a lot of money. It's a fuckload of money. But if you're not in the AFL Rugby League game, who the fuck is watching anything you're doing through winter, from fucking March until October?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just the price of admission.
Certainly is. Well, it's two good stories there. We'll be keeping an eye on for the next few years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can you imagine if the NRL's earning nearly, like, just out of TV rights, nearly $1 billion a year? I remember when they finally cracked the $1 billion mark for over 5 years.
Yeah.
And that was incredible. If they're getting nearly $1 billion a year per year, Rugby League will be able to do whatever the fuck it wants.
Yeah, that's crazy wealth.
It's insane. It's like, that's like, oh, next year we're starting a team in fucking Moscow, and they could do it easily. That's so crazy to think about.
Instead of Moscow, just say we're just going to have one on the Russian-Ukrainian border.
Yeah, like they can literally do whatever the fuck they wanted, which is so exciting. Like,
actually, could they actually have a team in China?
They could. They could
finally make that dream come true.
Look, it'd be interesting if they got to the point where they've got that much money, and then does the league itself start to look at a team like the Sharks and say, listen, we're giving it, because by then they'll probably be giving teams like $25 million a year just from the broadcasting deal, right? If they go to the Sharks and they say, we'll give you $50 million, but you've got to move to, say, either Adelaide or Christchurch or Beijing. Like, they could literally do that. The one thing I will find interesting, and especially when you think about these stories about, investing in Super League and stuff like that, there is going to come a point where money needs to be outgoing to try and build something.
Yes. And
it's going to have to be a lot of money. And right now, PVL has kind of got a green light to do a lot of things. But when you start looking at $50 million a year going outwards, you've got to get approval from all the stakeholders within the Australian game. And I think that's one hurdle that PVL has never had to face. And I can't imagine that all of the stakeholders, that being the QRL, the New South Wales Rugby League, all of the NRL clubs, I don't think that they're going to be happy with that. I don't think they're going to allow that, to be honest. Unless they see something ridiculous coming back.
Yeah. Definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, because this next TV rights deal is going to be sick compared to what they've had before.
It's going to be insane. I just wonder what the extras will be like. Will we see teams start building their own stadiums down? Like, will they invest and be like, we're going to build our own stadiums over the course of 20 years?
Maybe. Let's think of this outside the box. Maybe the NRL clubs have to buy a Super League team, and then Cronulla can buy Hull, and Hull can be the Sharks again.
The whole Thunder Sharks, yeah,
it's back.
Look, I think that's a better way to do it, to be honest. But then you're going to get bidding between the teams. Like, the Panthers and Broncos are the two richest teams in the league, right? Who do they both want? I could see both of them wanting London because you're buying in low and there's such a growth opportunity there. I could see both of them wanting Leeds because it's established. It's it's really plug in and play with the Leeds. Everywhere else is a bit weird though. Like Bradford, no. St Helens and Wigan, no. They're two little towns. Hull, once again, it's town. I just don't know who else they would buy, and like, would you get a team like Manly being interested in owning Castleford? Why would they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if Manly could afford it.
Well,
Manly can only really go after Salford.
Yeah, and like, could they outbid us?
Well, I mean, you've got the asset.
I've got the only asset that actually is paid for.
Yes.
So, I know we can negotiate, I guess.
Call me.
Yeah.
All right, let's look into this weekend's games and do our tips.
Okay. All right, so first game. It's a good one too. It is the Canberra Raiders hosting the Canterbury Bulldogs.
So stats-wise, the Raiders have conceded 191 points in their last 5 games. That's 38 points a game.
Jesus.
The Raiders have won 11 of their last 14 games against the Dogs, and the Dogs have won 8 of their 17 games since round 12 last year.
Wow, that's crazy, hey? Wow.
And the Raiders start as very narrow favourites in this.
I'm going for the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs are good.
I'm going the Bulldogs too. The next game, Roosters versus Penrith. Penrith have won 14 of their last 18 games against the Roosters and 12 of their last 14. Penrith have scored at least 20 points in all of their last 12 games against the Roosters and averaged 30.58 points per game against the Roosters in their last 12 clashes since 2020.
I saw some people in the media referring to a corresponding game last year between these two teams, and I was saying it was one of the famous Roosters victories. And I was like, oh, yeah, that was that game that they beat us, and we obviously started the season poorly. But it made me think of, like, what is really a famous win against a team, you know? I think that the Panthers are going to win, right? It's just a case of whether they decide to choke the life out of the Roosters or not. I think we could see the Roosters get very humbled in this one.
You're saying the Panthers are going to choke the chicken?
Yes. Yes. Definitely, with both hands.
Both hands?
Yeah.
That's a meaty chicken.
Yeah, it really is.
The other stat I found here too, DCE won his first 3 games against the Panthers in 2011-2012. He hasn't had back-to-back wins against them since, and he won his last game against them.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. The next match, Storm versus the Broncos.
Hang on, who do you think's going to win?
Oh, this is Penrith, Bob. Plenty.
Yeah. What I want to see is Penrith do what they did kind of in the first 2 games to the Roosters. I want to see them choke the fucking life out of them.
I think they will.
Yeah.
Storm Broncos. Brisbane have won their last 2 games against the Storm. They've only ever achieved 3 straight wins or more against the Storm once, and that was when they won 4 straight from 2002 to 2004. That was also the last time Brisbane recorded back-to-back wins against Melbourne. Brisbane have just 5 wins from 28 games in Melbourne against the Storm.
Wow.
And Melbourne have won 41 of their 52 games since 2009 across the opening 3 rounds of the season.
It's hard to not pick the Storm in this one. I think it's going to be a really good contest, though. I think that the Broncos will get up for this one. The Storm, as I said, I think the Storm have some vulnerabilities about them, but I just think that they're going to get the points in this one. And it's a lot of that historical Storm in Melbourne against the Broncos. There's a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of those stats you just read out, they're that way for a reason.
Yeah, that's right. Knights versus the Warriors. The Knights have won just one of their last 11 games at McDonald Jones Stadium.
Wow.
and just 19 of their last 48, which is going back to 2022, and 48 of their last 124, which goes back to 2015.
And I bet that this game's a sellout.
Probably, yeah.
The Newcastle fans are awesome.
The Warriors have also won 25 of their last 39 games against the Knights. That goes back to 2005. The one thing I will say is, based on what we've seen so far this year and what we know of last year, is the Warriors are unbelievably fucking resilient in the face of injuries.
Yeah.
And the Knights are not.
Yeah, although they, like last week, as I said, they handled the injuries well. But having said that, I just think that this is two different levels of teams coming up against each other. I think that the Warriors should get the money in this one. And I want to see them do it. In the past, this is the sort of game where they should have won and you go in and that they had a disappointing result. I want to see them get this one and continue this good start to the season. So I've gone for the Warriors in this one.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are going to do this one too. I'm actually worried for Knights fans that this next month is going to see them not win any more games until Brown or Ponga comes back.
Yeah, I think Brown, like Ponga, I think Brown's more important in some ways. I think you can replace what Ponga does more readily than Brown just because there's so many good fullbacks in the competition. So we'll see.
That's fair.
Yeah, we'll see.
Next we have the Sharks versus the Dolphins. Now the Sharks have won 36 of their last 49 games at their home ground, including their last 8 straight. The average score in their last 8 games at home is 35-14.
Wow.
And the Dolphins have 3 wins from 11 trips to Sydney, conceding nearly 29 points per game in those matches.
Wow. It's hard to not pick the Sharks in this one. That last week is going to be way heavy on them, but I think that that's a long-term thing for them. I think they'll bounce back here against the Dolphins. I think they're a different level of team to the Dolphins.
Yep, I think so too, and I think they'll probably win comfortably here. Let's see, what do we got next? Rabbitohs versus Tigers. Souths have won 12 of their last 16 games against the Tigers. And I found a stat when it starts out dire for the Tigers and then it gets direr.
Oh, no.
The Tigers have gone into a game as a top 5 side just 18 times since round 8 2014.
Wow.
And they have won just 3 of those games.
Jeez.
They've lost all 5 games as a top 5 side since 2019. They've only been in the top 5 times since 2019. I'm picking them here by about 95 points. I wish I could put points on there. Tigers are back.
Well, I tell you what, all I think about when I see this matchup is, one team kicking off to nobody in 1908. And
funnily enough, that nobody team still doesn't exist today.
Yeah. They're still not out there.
They're still not there. South are still waiting.
Look, I've been impressed with South so far this season, but I like what I'm seeing out of the West Tigers. I'm going for them. I think that they'll win.
Nice. Eels versus Dragons. Parramatta have won 13 of their last 17 games against the Dragons. And the Dragons have lost their last 6 games, conceding at least 40 points in 4 of their last 5 matches.
And yeah, I'm going for the Eels in this one.
Yeah, I think they'll probably put 40 on them as well.
Yep.
And the last match, oh my God.
Ugh.
Cowboys versus Titans. The Cowboys have conceded 30.5 points per game across their last 19 NRL games. The Titans have conceded 30.4 points per game across their last 34 NRL games. And the Cowboys have won 16 of their last 21 games against the Titans. This does not augur well. You know what? I'm going to pick the Titans.
I'm going to go for the Cowboys.
Because they should win?
This like picking between herpes and syphilis. Like,
as for what you're going to have for breakfast.
Yes. That's disgusting. Jesus.
That's right. That's where we're at.
Oh yeah, this is a rough one. I don't know that I'll watch this game. I'll be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going for the Cowboys just based on the fact that they have more talent. They're at home, and that's it. They got nothing. I got nothing else.
I'm going for Cooper Bye to give his old man the big middle finger and drag the Titans into the finals and say, see, I am at a finals quality side. You can do it, son.
The good news is the Seagulls don't play at all this week, so we don't have to watch them.
That is something. Actually, what do I mean? Well, Manly will move up to 2 points on the ladder.
Nice.
They'll be happy with that. That means they'll probably still stay ahead of the Dragons.
It's interesting that the NRL ladder already has a look about it that feels like it won't change too much towards the end of the year. I think that there'll be a couple of teams that will make big moves. I mean, the Broncos aren't going to finish 15th.
And I don't think the Knights are going to finish 4th either.
Yeah, that's the other one. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's got an interesting few weeks coming up. I tell you what, over the next 3 weeks, there are some teams whose season can be back on track well and truly, or completely over just within the next 3 weeks, which is kind of shocking.
It is. It's pretty crazy. Also, Raiders defending minor premiers, 1 win, 1 loss. Haven't been impressive. Yep. What do you think Ricky Stewart is blaming for that poor start to the year? Just to let you know, I don't know the answer. I'm just putting it out there.
My guess, there will be a travel element. I mean, they had to go to New Zealand. I saw he was very much behind the quick play the ball, 6 again things in the media this week. And I wasn't surprised by that because he signed 3 fucking hookers. So I wasn't super surprised by that. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if the Raiders kind of do a bit of a fade, where they will focus on it as being the reason for that fade, because traditionally it's never been anything they've done wrong because they're just amazing. Just ask them. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
That is true. That is very true. Well,
that's why if the Bulldogs win this game in Canberra, there's going to be some at least questions asked. So I wonder if if they do lose to the Bulldogs in this game, whether it will be one of those games where Stewart comes out and just blows somebody else up to try and take the attention off of him and his team.
He's due.
Yeah, he is.
It's been 2 weeks already and he hasn't done it yet, so he's due.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to be crazy there. Is there anything else we need to address? I mean, the Formula One wasn't on the weekend to China. I thought it was a bit mid. Yeah,
it was very mid. Once again, like not too much real racing, and very much like your battery turn, my battery turn, and then once that's sorted out, just like nothing until the checkered flag. So it was good to see Kimi Antonelli win his first race as a young dude.
Yeah, broke the record for the youngest ever race winner.
Yep, George Russell was so over the moon for him. It was so wonderful to see. I've never seen someone so fucking upset to come in second place in the Grand Prix. But yeah,
we're still seeing big gaps too in the races between Mercedes, then Ferrari, then everybody else.
Yeah. Like, look, if Ferrari hadn't sorted some things out under these new regulations, it would be a fucking disaster. Because if Ferrari was just back leading the rest of the pack, and these 2 Mercedes were just running away with these races, man, it would be shocking. I really hope that they change something about these regs.
Yeah, they're kind of boring.
Yeah, they really are. I think the chassis are great. I think that the cars look small and nimble.
The cars look fantastic. Having them a bit smaller has been brilliant.
Yeah, and they look a little bit lively and stuff, but it's the engine packages they've got are fucked. So, yeah, it sucks.
We shall see what they do with that.
Mm.
Other than that, a quick roundup over in England. There was a story that came out that on the weekend, Huddersfield played against Hull KR, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was reported that the crowd at Huddersfield for that game was 2,736.
I saw the picture that somebody had posted from the stadium. And if there were 2,000 people there, I'll eat my fucking hat.
Well, the Robins apparently said that they know that they sold 2,000 tickets to the game.
Really? Well, look, the dude that took the picture, he took a picture of a stadium that was basically empty for a few hundred people. So,
yeah.
Disgraceful.
So people were saying, does this mean Huddersfield's like on the brink, though they're going to be out the door? And so I decided to do a little bit of research. I put a graph up on my, in a reply on my Twitter feed there, showing the average crowds at Huddersfield since 1980-81.
Yeah.
It's never, ever gone close to averaging 10,000 in a year. It's usually between 2,000 and 7,000. And it's very rarely been 7,000. Like, it just fluctuates around that 4,000 to 6,000 mark. This is a club that never gets big crowds, even when they're successful.
They just need more time, Andrew.
Maybe they need a bigger stadium.
Look, do you expect them, all right, after, like, what has it been, 127 years? Do you think that they can just get a crowd out of nowhere? They just need more time.
They're just a young side, all right? They're just working it out. They'll get there.
Yeah. If the game wasn't started in Huddersfield, like if it was started somewhere, where it would be a really cool place for the game to have started, by the way, in England.
Doncaster.
Yeah, somewhere like that. Yeah, just because of that.
You know what? In a mine somewhere in Doncaster.
Just in a mine. If the game wasn't started in Huddersfield, there'd be no Huddersfield team, and I think it's admirable of their owner to keep the dream alive. But I mean, they're like the Cronulla Sharks of the Super League, really, except for there's been less. What would the word be? I'm trying to think of a word that's not liable.
They haven't had a Paul Gallen type player.
No. And look, who has?
Well, can you?
Rodney Howe was pretty good for a while, though, eh?
Can you tell me when you think it was that Huddersfield last won their last ever top division title? This could include Challenge Cup.
1956.
Not far off. 1961-62.
Okay. I knew that they'd had a moment in the middle of last century.
Yeah. 65 years ago.
Yeah, it's
even the Sharks have had a premiership since then.
Yeah, and it wasn't a real one. Should have been stripped from them, but still.
No, they were financially viable for that period.
What do you mean? That's not about being financially viable.
They were viably within the salary cap, whatever it was. Don't look, all right?
Okay.
Promise me.
Okay.
Just trust me on this, okay? Don't. The books are relevant, okay? I've read it, right? And you know that I can read, right?
Yeah.
So I've read it.
Yeah.
Right. So everything was good.
All right.
That's how that's done.
Okay.
If only the Storm had have thought of that. If only they knew how to read.
I think the problem was they read too much. They had too many books.
They were reading too many books.
Yeah.
They got confused as to which one they read.
Yeah.
That can happen.
It's interesting, though, that you get, what is the Huddersfield Giants worth? What's the value you put on the Huddersfield Giants if you've got an entity that doesn't have fans? and that you're putting on games for no fan base and they don't move the needle whatsoever in terms of broadcasting deal, what's the team actually worth?
If Huddersfield was a product at Tesco,
yeah,
what aisle would it be in, and what would be on the price tag? That's what you're asking.
It would be in the. I think you know what I mean. I can't say it because people will be like, oh, yeah.
Well, I won't be Huddersfield fans, will it? Because there's only 700 of them.
Yes, yeah. Reply to them individually. Fuck off. Fuck off.
Maybe that's something that the English fans, and you've got plenty of them, they could email us with their answers to that question.
No, I don't want to hear from fucking English fans.
That's not what you tell me.
Ugh. God. Anytime anything happens that I got to interact with English fans, it's never fun.
We'll leave that job then for Andy Marjolais to go around and get their answers.
It's just always a howl. They don't reply as much as they howl at me. Ugh.
Oh, you love it. All right, then. Well, we'll wrap this baby up and put it to bed. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's been good fun. So many things happening this week as opposed to the first 2 weeks of the season. It's been good to talk about, and I just can't wait for the next round of games. I'm really enjoying watching the footy.
Except for the last one this week.
Yeah, I won't be watching that.
Yeah,
I don't want to bring it all down with the last game of the round.
We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on all the socials. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you do go to YouTube, like and subscribe every video.